Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Coming Out Stories from India series. Coming out is a term used primarily in the LGBT community when a queer person shares about their sexual orientation, usually with friends and family. Nicola and I decided to launch these Coming Out Stories from India to ensure all of us work together in changing the narrative. We aim to give the next generation positive stories, positive role models, and information that can help them make the right choices. I'm Raga Olga D'silva, or Totally Out Now, as you know me. Coming out is not simple for many. It takes a huge amount of courage. However, at times we don't even know that we are queer. Like in my case, you know, this is such a heteronormative society, right? So we believe that, being with a man for a woman is normal. And then women like me marry. So why do we marry? Why do we decide to marry? Why do we later decide that this is not us? Today, let's speak with Gurleen Arora. Gurleen is a queer person of color, BIPOC actor, writer, costume designer, and performance artist. She helps manage the Dharamshala Residential International Festival for Theatre in Dharamshala, Himachal Pradesh. Looking for the queer in almost everything, Gurleen works towards trying and bringing as many people as possible together through art and performance so as to create bridges, break boundaries, and merge our individual bubbles that we happily live in. Married not until long ago, and from Dharamshala, she now lives in Bombay or Mumbai. She realized that she was actually queer and attracted to women. She now has a same gender partner. Let's speak with Gurleen, and Gurleen, welcome.
Hi, Raga.
Hi. Hi,
Hello.
what a beautiful, 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 should I say frame? So lovely. So lovely to see you. Gurleen, you're in my favorite part of the world, Bombay. I still
Yes,
call her Bombay.
Bombay.
Bombay's an emotion, isn't it?
It really is. It really, really is.
So
No matter how
you,
much I tried to run away from it, I got pulled back.
oh, Bombay will never let you stay away for too long, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So you grew up in Bombay, Gurleen. I just want you
I
to tell
did.
us about your growing up experiences in Mumbai. Should we call it Bombay or Mumbai?
Yeah, please, let's just call it Bombay.
Bombay, no? Yeah, so let's
Yeah,
reclaim Bombay. So tell us about your
yes.
growing up experiences in Bombay.
I was born in a very conservative Punjabi family in Bombay 33 years ago, 1988. And my family originally, my grandmother came to Bombay with three children and a sewing machine, and that's it. And with no money in her pocket, about 70 years ago.
Where
And
did she come from?
she
Where did
came from, I mean, she originally hails from Pakistan.
okay.
But then after partition, she moved to Dehradun with her husband. And I mean, we don't know much about our grandfather because she left him. And she left him with, um, like, she took her three children, she took her sewing machine because that's all she had. And she moved to Bombay because that's the city that she decided she was going to start her new life in. So she came in and started working from scratch and started sewing garments for people. And so she was a seamstress or a tailor. So I come from a family of tailors because my grandmother was a tailor, then my father took on the business, and then I became a designer. And so yeah, that was how I happened to be born in Bombay. My mother passed away when I was 2.5 years old. So I was raised primarily by my father and my grandmother. So
Okay.
my grandmother
So
is kind of like our family's mother.
sure, yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
so that must have had a significant impact on your life. Was your grandmother your
Yes.
mentor and role model?
Yes.
Yeah.
She recently passed away a couple of years ago. She was a
Yeah.
100 years old, and she didn't just raise me. She also raised my her own grandchildren because two of her children One went missing and one passed away at a very young age. So she
Oh.
also raised their children in front of us, and instead of them being my nieces and my nephews, I started to refer to them as uncles and aunties because she raised them as her own children.
So
And
you live in an extended family, basically. You grew up in an extended family with multiple people in your life.
somewhat, not like one of those very Bollywood kind of very big families, but yeah, I mean somewhat in a Bombay sort of setup, a slightly bigger family in a small Bombay house with like explosion everywhere, and we had a little boutique in the house as well. So we had tailors in the house, and we had color everywhere, and yeah, and I used to sleep in the same room as my grandmother. My grandmother essentially took me everywhere with her, and yeah, she was my mother, she was my grandmother, she was my teacher, she was everybody to me, you know.
So, so tell me, Gurleen, around this time when you're growing up, have you started discovering yourself as someone who's attracted to women, or was the narrative around you at all? Did you know the word queer, gay? Those conversations, if they happened around you in your family, around your grandmother, what would be your
Yeah.
typical reaction?
Yeah, so there's a really fun thing that happened once. Um, I was really young. I don't remember exactly what my age was, but um, I wasn't very young. So I came to know that I was a little bit inclined towards women when I was around 12 years old. So, and I had a little bit of a moment, so to speak, in terms of my entire life with my cousin sister. And she would come over for summer vacation, and we ended up being two same aged girls who were spending all of our summer vacation together. So we would dress up together, we would, do everything together over the vacation. And it just kind of at some point happened, and we weren't sure about what was happening. And then the vacation ended, and then that moment kind of faded out of our lives. We never spoke about it again. But then many years later, I remember having a conversation with my grandmother about something, and she was like, when we were growing up at that time, a lot of men used to have relationships outside of their marriages, with other men. And she would tell us that these were things that the women knew. The wives knew that this was happening. And they would specifically tell their husbands that I don't care what you do outside the house, but don't bring it inside. Don't carry it along with you. So, at some level, I think there was an understanding. She knew,
Hmm.
like everybody knows, that homosexuality does exist. But it just wasn't something that was kind of openly discussed in homes. It wasn't something that was a conversation that ever came up in our household.
So,
Uh,
do you think, Gurleen, sorry to interrupt, do you think it was her way of somewhere acknowledging that perhaps, she felt that you were inclined, number one?
I
And number
don't think
two,
so.
you don't. So, that wasn't the reason she was making that. Or asking you, what typically like mom say, just marry, whatever else you have to do, later, it's okay. That's a typical response we get, right? Don't worry
Yeah,
about it. Or if they get to know that your husband is, sleeping around or promiscuous or having relationships, don't worry about it as long as he
yeah,
looks after you. So that wasn't happening
correct.
for you.
I mean, there was no way that I gave my family the slightest inkling that I was interested in women. I didn't have the courage because when I was in school, I went to a convent school, which was an all girls school, and
Okay.
there was lesbianism, so to speak, happening everywhere. Uh, and we were in the football team. I was in the football team. I was a goalkeeper in the football team, and the entire football team was queer, as far as I know. I don't know where they're placed now, and like not a lot of them are. But they like the whole school knew that that there was all of the students knew that there was something happening between other students who were all girls, and it was very well known. But it was never spoken of again until this moment happened when one of our football teams girls had a sort of relationship happening with another girl who was far senior. And somebody saw them outside of school, and they kind of just they just turned it around into a story, and it escalated and turned into something much bigger than what it was. And then the principal got involved, and the teachers got involved, and the parents got involved. And it became a very sort of shameful thing for both the girls involved. And I was very good friends with one of them. And my father, when he found out about it, specifically asked me to stop being friends with her. So I knew for a fact that he was somewhat homophobic, or that society expected him to be that way.
Okay, so
And that scared me so much.
yeah,
Yeah,
so homophobia now has entered your life. At least
yeah,
the conversations around you, there is, like you just mentioned, that the football team you thought was all queer, right? There was just
yeah,
an understanding, or maybe because they're athletic people, we make assumptions as well, right? And then you said
yeah.
two of the girls got involved and there was homophobia. So now you're telling me that somewhere around the line, without you knowing it, there is fear has already started setting in, thinking,
Setting.
my father doesn't approve. So that's already happening to you in the background. You're very young at that time. I want to know, what was your reaction, personal reaction? You said one of them was your friend. What did you do about
Yes.
it?
Um, I'll be very honest with you. I was um, I was young. I was naive. It's not an excuse, but I I got terrified. I saw what happened with her. I was petrified. I thought it was a wrong thing. I didn't look at it as something that happened that was okay. Despite the fact that I had had that one moment with my cousin myself, I didn't look at it as something that was all right. I thought I wasn't okay. I thought what these girls were doing was not okay, and it just didn't come as something that came as a respectful thing to do. In my brain, in my little early teenage brain, it didn't make sense.
So you
And
judged them,
so,
right?
yeah,
Out of fear, out of whatever information was available to you around you, and
yes,
from your own very dear one, your father, for instance, who we look up to. So then
yes.
I'm really curious to know then what happened to you between that age and then the next 2 years of your life, where you obviously, as you said, you got married. Now I want to understand why. Did you at any point have any confusion at that age, or you were happily considering marriage because that is the thing that the society expected you to do?
Yeah. So I mean, I've never been known to conform. I've never really actually done things in this very conforming way. Uh, but what happened with that incident in school kind of in my subconscious asked me to put away my queerness. So it kind of took a backseat. And I remember almost immediately I started dating a boy. Almost immediately after that happened, I started dating. My first boyfriend was around that same age. And I don't know if that was happening because of this, but I know that it happened around the same time when I look at it chronologically. And I just kind of I I smoothed into it somehow without realizing. And everybody around had boyfriends, so I had a boyfriend. So, except I was very, I didn't actually put it completely away. So, I would go online and I would look at content which was always queer. I was always, and the internet had just started coming up. So we had these Yahoo chat rooms. We had these pages had started to come up, Orkut and High Five and things like that. So whenever I would be in an online space when nobody knew me, when nobody came from my part of the world, I took that chance to explore it a little bit, at least read about it, watch it. I watched as much content as I could out there about it. Um, And I never spoke about it with my friends. But there was this entire online community which was happening, which some of them knew. It was a safer space. I didn't feel judged, and it felt like I could kind of talk about it there. So I did start to somewhat live in the shadows with my sexuality, and I was never really inclined only towards women or only towards men. So I was always sort of very um, sort of floating in between them, and I wasn't really sure. Also, because I had never given a complete thought to being with a woman.
So
It was
any
never an
crushes in the
extended thing.
meantime? Any real crushes, real life experiences that were happening apart from online stuff?
Uh, I mean, it was mostly online that transferred into some reality. So I had a somewhat crush on this friend who I made online, and then we met and we kind of tried to sort of explore it, but it didn't really go down well for both of us. So maybe that was just like a bad match. I think I'm not really sure. Uh, And there was a lot of celebrity crushes. So I was majorly crushing on Angelina Jolie, on
Mm.
Salma Hayek, and I knew that. I knew that I wasn't just looking up to them as beautiful women. I knew that I would be attracted to them. And
And at
that
no
was,
point, sorry, Gurleen, at no point did you have any close friends that you could even share this part of you with, that you had crushes? You didn't feel safe to even speak to your, say, closest friend?
I would say it, but I would say it in a very sort of casual way. I wouldn't really I wouldn't go in depth into it. I wouldn't talk about how I was really feeling on the inside.
So you were feeling
And
judged? You felt that they would judge you, or you felt shame for yourself, or you felt awkward, embarrassed? I mean, the adjectives that I'm using. What is it that stopped you from talking to your friends?
um, you know what? I don't think it was like that. I think what I did was when I put that part of myself in this compartment and I put it in the back of my head, I kind of realized that this is just a part of me. I accepted that it is a part of me, but I didn't realize that I needed to actually give it some more value. I didn't value myself enough to to look at that part of myself. And I wasn't around queer people. I had no community. I did meet a bunch of queer people at one stage in my life, around the age of 18, 19, who I'm all very good friends with even now. But when I met them at that stage, I had not explored my sexuality at all. And they asked me to choose, you know. So they said, are you straight? Are you a lesbian? Are you bisexual? What are you? Have you decided? And I was always without answers. Because for me, to date, if you ask me, what are my preferences, I will not be able to tell you. I'm in a relationship right now with a woman, my preference is this person. I will not be able to put myself in this very clear, sort of clean bracket. I don't want to do that. And I couldn't at that time. And I kind of faced judgment from them also. So even the queer people that I met, I faced judgment, and like they were like, why don't you decide? And so yeah, so no, I
Yeah,
couldn't talk to anybody about it beyond that then.
I totally understand. I've been through all this. Did the queer women at that time, did they judge you also for not being, not having discovered yourself? Because everybody wants answers, straight answers, right? Even the gay
Answers.
community, right? And they always want to know. And because I used to be called, oh, you're bi curious, they would say, and they'd say, oh, you wear
Yes.
lipstick. And that time I had long hair like you have, and they would just instantly box me and say, oh, I mean, lipstick pehenti hai, you wear lipstick and you wear makeup and you wear nail polish, so you are a femme person. And all the butch women, sorry, so-called butch women, would just come to me saying, hey, from India, exotic, makeup wearing femme, I want her. And if you didn't have an answer, they would really judge you, and they were very
Yeah,
difficult. And I keep telling people, our own community is quite challenging. We judge, we box, we label as ourselves.
absolutely.
But but tell me, I'm really, now I'm curious, not bi curious, just curious to understand. Gurleen, so I can understand this confusion, or just you're just flowing, right? You're going with the flow, you're floating in the air, you're discovering yourself, and all of us go through that process. At
Yeah.
what point did you decide? And you said you're a non-conformist. At what point did you decide that you were going to be in a conventional marriage? Because I think marriage is
Um,
conventional.
yeah. I also used to think marriage is too conventional for me. I actually never wanted to get married because I grew up watching only failed marriages around me, either failed or broken marriages. So actually, I'd made up my mind that I will never get married, especially to a man. I mean, it's just not something I wanted. Uh, when um, when I met my then partner, my ex-husband, I was 19 years old, and I was I'm 33 today. I was 19 then, and I had not seen life. I had not explored things. I was just coming out of fashion college. I was just about starting to walk life and look at things and explore things, and I fell in love. I did fall in love. I cannot say that this was something that happened to me that wasn't that was out of my not not without my consent, you know. I was very much consenting. I was very much into it. He's a beautiful, beautiful person. Um, and I did tell him, I told him I didn't want to marry. He was very okay with it. I told him that I'm queer and that I think at that time I used to think I'm probably bisexual. So I used to tell him, but it was something that he was never really okay with. So he was like, the day that you kind of um, go outside of this relationship, I'll be gone, you know. And the fear of losing that relationship for me kept me going for a very, very long time and not allowing me to kind of explore it. So I got married because I moved to Himachal at in 2015 is when I got married. About 2 years after I moved to Dharamshala, which is where he was from. And I got married because it was what society wanted. So then I conformed. I really, really conformed. Even though the marriage was really small, there were like 15 people, only our families, court marriage. Very, very small marriage, but we were very happy. And I was like, nothing's going to change. So I said, fine, let's go ahead with it. We wanted to build a house together. We wanted like it to be more formal so that paperwork could be easier and things like that. So we said, yeah, let's just hope nothing changes. So that's the
But it
reason
changed.
that we got married. But it
But it did
changed.
change. Yeah. So I
Yes.
want to understand. So, because what I get from you that your ex-husband, and I know you're still technically, you said you're married, which is another sub
Yes.
talk we will have. But your ex-husband, let's say ex-husband, he was very clear that he wanted a monogamous relationship. That if it
Yes.
was not him, then it wouldn't be, you wouldn't be married. I can understand
Yes.
that fear when you love somebody that you want that person for you. It must have
Yeah.
been very difficult to have the thoughts that you were having at that time, because I think thoughts don't leave us, right? Thoughts live in us. And if those feelings that you were always exploring, those feelings don't leave us. We may bury them for a while. So I want to know, in your marriage, while you were happy, I'm not taking that away from you, did you have those thoughts and feelings, and were you keeping them in hiding because of the fear of losing your marriage and your husband? And when did that change
Yes.
for you?
Yeah. I mean, I kept it from him throughout. I was in a relationship with him for 12 years, and I kept it bottled up inside of me all the time. Um, and as strange as it may sound, it it's like this was a problem that I had. He was not aware of the fact that I had this problem. He wasn't aware that I was going through something. These were feelings and experiences that I was going through inside of my own head and making up things and making it really big and never really coming out and talking about it, with anybody. And I didn't take therapy, I didn't give my mental health any importance at that time. And there wasn't really a lot of conversation around mental health or the importance of it at that time. So I never really bothered with it. I just kept on living life as long as mostly everything was all right.
So,
And
did it impact your mental health while we talk? I would love to talk about that. So, did it have an impact?
my mental health
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
situation, yes,
This whole thing, hiding
absolutely.
inside, hiding your feelings, you're leading now a double life, right? One, whether you
Yeah,
have experienced something along with your husband or not, that doesn't matter. But the fact that you've bottled it in,
yeah,
how,
absolutely.
what happened? I mean, it would have just come out in very dysfunctional manners, I'm sure, as it did in my case.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of lies. There was a lot of me lying. There's a lot of me kind of acting out, being irresponsible. Me kind of, I was, I would show films and shows and things like that with queer content to him, to try and have him see this other side of the world, which he could see, he could accept, he could respect for what it was, but only from a distance. It wasn't okay for him for it to ever enter our existence. So I was like, hey, do you want to try out a threesome or something like that one day, and he was like, no. And he wasn't one of those men who fetishized lesbians, because that's also something that a lot of straight men do, especially cis het straight men. They do that a lot, and he wasn't one of those men. So it wasn't even like I could have lured him into it sexually. There wasn't that option. And I was like, this is such a straight-laced person that I have absolutely no way into this. So I had to do it in my private space, in my own private time, and which was very harmful to me because I started to kind of really get depressed. I was living in Dharamshala, which is very isolated as a town as it is. There is no queer community in Himachal or in Dharamshala. At least no out and proud queer community like there is in Bombay. And I was living there and I was just starting to, and he's in the Merchant Navy and he would go off to sail and I would be alone for 4 months at a stretch. And it just started to eat me up,
So
and
tell
the
us about.
world around me was changing.
Sure, sure. But tell
Yeah.
me about this whole space called Dharamshala. We've all heard about Dharamshala. You actually lived there. You experienced it. I just want to understand, what is Dharamshala? What is it? Why does it have the kind of, influence on people that it seems to have?
Yeah. Dharamshala is it's a very small town in Himachal Pradesh in the north of India, and it's a mountain town. So it's this very quaint, not very little anymore. Now it's kind of like it's really gained momentum over the years, but it's as compared to Bombay, a very, very, very small place. And this is basically the place where the Dalai Lama came and took his refuge after leaving Tibet. And originally he was going to do it in Darjeeling or in Dalhousie. I think Darjeeling. And then he decided against it and he took refuge in Dharamshala. And it is where he lives. It is where the entire Tibetan community, a big part of the Tibetan community that took refuge in India lives in Dharamshala. And yeah, I mean it's a really beautiful, scenic, gorgeous place where people from all over the world come. And like it's in its name, it's Dharamshala. It's a space that's open to all and it's all encompassing and it just takes in whoever comes there. So a lot of people come there from all over the world looking for themselves, so to speak, and because there is the existence of Buddhism and there's the mountains and there's the the local Gaddi community who are a shepherd community, So there's a lot of culture to the place. It's
So in a way,
culturally charged, it's politically charged. Yeah.
it is an idyllic place for you when you are going. You have your husband away 4 months in a year at a time, and you're going through all these hidden feelings and thoughts. And I don't know whether the word confusion is the right word, but I think turmoil is what I would say, because you're
Yes.
not able to share it with anyone else, but in a perfect setting, right? It's a setting for
Yeah.
me. Dharamshala would be a setting where I would find mental peace. If I wanted to run away from my partner, I would go to Dharamshala. Yeah. So, which I don't want to, I ever want to run away from her. So,
You're very welcome, though. I have a home there, so you're very welcome to
oh,
come and
we will both run away
come
together.
together. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, in a setting like that, and you're going through all that, did you find your spirituality? Did it help you with your mental health issues at that time? Because you were in Dharamshala, did it help you make a decision about what next? Because you were in Dharamshala? Because the chaos of a city can also have a huge impact, right?
Yeah. Actually, the chaos of the city, I feel to some extent helps suppress your pain, right? Because there's so much noise around you. Bombay will really kind of it's very good to be in Bombay if you're an escapist. Actually, escapism is much better here than in the mountains because people think that you can go to the mountains and you will be able to find yourself. But that journey of finding yourself is actually a very, very painful and a very, very lonely one, you know.
Correct.
So, this idea of like, oh, let's go to the mountains because it's idyllic is actually great if you are just looking for a vacation. But living there and being alone inside of your homes over there is, especially when you're going through turmoil inside of your system, it actually brings everything to the surface. There is no escaping your feelings. You have to listen to the voice inside of you because everything outside is so silent that you cannot escape into any one of these little sort of voids, worlds, uh, parties, bars, social gatherings. It's not possible. So it actually brings everything to the surface. So mental health actually, I mean, when you think about it, it can catch up with you anywhere. It's how much you kind of allow it to, and how much it so after a point it starts to kind of bubble up and boil up and reaches the it's kind of and that's what started happening with me. Every time he would go away on ship and I was alone, it started to get worse and it started to get worse and it started to get worse. Then my grandmother passed away, and this is 2 years ago in July. And when she passed away, everything I knew it, everything that I knew as it was had shifted. My base had shifted because she was my constant for so long that it kind of really moved. When that moved, everything around me seemed alien to me. I couldn't deal with it at all anymore. The the trauma and the grief of that really hit me hard. And it's funny because we were supposed to go bomb got cut off there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, yeah. So we were supposed to go to Bombay actually because my grandmother was turning 100 years old, and we were supposed to have a big celebration for her 100th birthday. But just a week before the celebration, she decided to quietly leave
Oh,
the earthly abode. And she reached there, and when I and me and my husband were supposed to go for a holiday to Berlin, to Germany. We were going to travel to Europe for the first time, and he had planned the entire trip around taking me to Pride in Berlin. And I was supposed to attend a Pride for the first time in my life. and it was supposed to be in Berlin. And he planned the entire thing as a way to support me because he knew that I'm queer. And so he decided that. But my grandmother passed away, so we went to Bombay. We finished her final rites and everything. And I decided that I didn't want to sit at home and mourn. So we went off for the trip anyways. And I didn't realize what state of mind I was really going in.
So how did he know? I'm sorry, there is a little bit of gap for me now. So you're
Yeah,
saying that your husband knew and he had planned this trip around Pride in Berlin, but have you now come out to him, or is it something that you have
it's going to
shared?
happen.
No, so it didn't. So on his own, he decided to take you to Pride, believing that that's the part of you that requires to go to Pride. But you haven't told him at this point that you feel this way about
So
anything.
I used to keep talking about it.
I see. Just
I
basis
used
that
to
you
keep
decided.
I used to keep talking about it. I was always interested in queer politics, in queer issues. I was always reading up about it. I was always watching stuff around it. I was what one may call, I was not a practicing queer, I was a queer person in theory. So I had all of the theory by hearted.
Why curious is the word they say.
I
No,
knew
but
everything about it, everything. I had done my studies.
so basically, your ex-husband at that point, or husband at that point, has decided to gift you something which he believes is more you, right? That's what I can
Yes.
sense. So it's almost like a way of accepting now Gurleen for Gurleen's, bisexuality, if I can call it. He's saying, okay, I give you permission. It's it that I would look at it that way. But you haven't come out to him. So, but
Not
was that
yet.
the turning point in your life? Do you think
So
that
we
was the
went to
turning point?
Berlin. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we went to Berlin. We were at Pride. And you know that first moment when the Pride parade starts, it begins and like they start walking towards you. I had tears in my eyes because first of all, I was like, I was attending Pride for the first time in my entire life and in one of the biggest cities in the world and one of the most out and proud and flamboyant parades ever. And everybody was there and they were being their truest, most authentic self and expressing their gender, their sexualities in so much honesty. And here I was in a hetero relationship with somebody who would not let me explore this part of myself and who I could not speak to about this. And it it felt it was the worst day of my life. It felt so painful. It felt like putting a dog on a leash and putting and holding the leash back in front of food, or putting a muzzle on a dog's mouth, or like, like taking somebody to a place that is exactly where they want to be in their truest form, but not letting them be that over there. So it was so painful. It was so painful. And so I told him, I said, you planned this, you got me here. I have to tell you that this is who I am and this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And the life that I'm living with you is beautiful, but I need more for myself. And in the middle of Pride, there were these parks on the side and things like that. And like everybody else is enjoying themselves and having a gala time. And here both of us are sitting in the middle of this park, like absolutely drunk on cheap beer. And we're just like, we're like crying and hurting. And it was very traumatic. And then he said that I don't know when I'll be okay with it. I might be okay with it someday, but I don't know when that's going to be. In my head, that translated into um, maybe he'll be okay with it when I'm 50 years old, or like when I'm 60 or when I'm 70. But I
Mm.
can't wait until then. So already everything had shifted after my grandmother passed away. I was feeling like as though there's nothing I have left to lose. So I said, just let it be. I'm just going to go ahead and do this on my own. And that's how it happened. That is how that breaking point in my mind was that. when I
I
was like,
know.
I cannot lie.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Gurleen. I mean, that I'm sure the audience watching this will appreciate the courage and just such honest, raw conversation with you. And I've been through this. I know how difficult it is. A lot of people call my life a fairy tale life, and I can tell you it was anything but fairy tale, because
Yeah.
the processing you have to do, the internalization you have to do, the pain of knowing that you're breaking up something which is very significant for you. It is your life. It was not forced upon you. It was a
Yeah.
life you chose, and you have to, sadly, we have to let go of something to get something new in our life. That is the saddest part
Yeah.
of life, I feel. Sometimes I feel, why can't we have it all? And why should I feel selfish about having it all? Why
Yeah.
can't we? And I think now we have created that, Nicola and I, that we have created a modern family, and I think which is what you're creating as well. That all of
Yes.
we,
Yes.
we can create that love,
Yes.
to get unconditional love, what we call. And so I'm now interested in understanding this Gurleen, which, I mean, I just can feel, okay, whatever you're saying, it's actually giving me goosebumps. I feel like I'm reliving my life.
Oh.
No,
Oh.
really, I feel I'm
Thank you.
reliving my life, and
Thank
I
you.
just wish you just the best, really. But now tell me, how did that transformation or the transition happen? Because again, that would not be easy, because you have to
Yeah.
talk to yourself constantly. You know you're going to be judged.
Yeah.
You know there are going to be abuses hurled at you. You know your friends are going to ghost you. So how did that transition happen, and how did you meet your partner, and how did love come into your life again?
Uh, wow, yeah. I mean, so then it was just me kind of joining Tinder and saying, you know what, I'm just gonna go out there and I'm going to explore myself and my sexuality, and I'm not going to kind of keep it hidden anymore. And yeah, I mean, I was coming to Bombay for my health wasn't doing so well, so I was traveling from Dharamshala to Bombay for a week or 10 days, a small trip just so that I can visit the doctor and things like that. And I was on Tinder the morning after I reached. I matched with Vinny on the same evening, and I met her the same night because I was in such a hurry that I mean, you know, the dam had broken, right? So now it was overflowing with like I just wanted to do it. I just wanted to kind of so yeah, I mean, I was talking to a couple of women before I met Vinny, but nothing really worked out. It didn't really kind of fit. And when I met Vinny, it was surreal because I'm such a confident and like outspoken person. And I met her, and the entire date, I was just looking down at the floor. I was so shy and I was so like, I had no idea how to respond to that kind of energy, you know. And she was so confident and so gay. She was so gay that it intimidated me, but in a nice way. You know, it was the kind of way that I was looking for. I was looking for that honesty and that clarity, and I saw that clarity in her, and that amount of confidence and clarity in who you are. That was so attractive. It was so attractive that I couldn't resist it. You know, and so, I mean, she still makes fun of me, you know. She's like, you didn't see me on the first date. So, I mean, how are you still with me? You didn't even look at me. So,
So with Vinny and now your ex-husband, how did you then, after a week, decide that this is it for you? And did you come out to your husband as saying that I now have met someone, or did that take time?
so he was on ship when this happened. When I met Vinny, he was on ship again. And I fell in love with Vinny on the third date.
Oh,
I told her on the third date. For me, I'm just one of those people who gets to know like this, you know, that I'm in love. I just know it. And so I told her, and it scared her because she knew I was married, and she never ever dated married women. You know, it was her one rule. she broke that one rule. She was like, I'm never going to get into a relationship with a married woman. And she did it. And so she was really scared to say back. But those 10 days, we basically didn't spend a single day apart from each other. It was like a very classic lesbian first date that just doesn't end, basically. So it was like 10 days. We kept trying to sort of, we kept deciding every day, today we won't meet each other, today we won't see each other, today we'll spend apart. And it never happened until the day that I left. I went back to the Dharamshala, and within 5 days, she arrived there. And so then we spent a lot of time together. And at that point, I thought I could still make it work with him and with her. So I wasn't willing to kind of come to this very clear sort of conclusion about what I wanted, And I thought that I could, because I'd not fallen out of love with him. I'd
Yeah.
just fallen in love with her. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to maneuver this, but I knew that I wanted to do it. So when he came back, I had decided that I was going to tell him. When he came back, it was 2 months later, and when he came back, I had like a physical response to this whole situation, and I felt sick for 3 days. The moment he arrived, I felt sick for 3 days. And at the end of the third day, in my fever, he asked me, he's like, what's up? I know something's up with you. Tell me. And I just came out and I told him. I told him I've met somebody, I've fallen in love, I want to be with her. And I knew from the moment he came back that I couldn't be with him anymore. So it just took me that one moment to actually meet him. And I realized that I could not, I loved him, but I couldn't be in a marriage with him anymore. I couldn't be in a relationship with him anymore, which was romantic or sexual. I couldn't do it. And that became very clear for me in that exact moment. And then after is when the struggle started, where we had to start kind of acknowledging all of the real stuff, which was, how we're going to make it happen and how I could do something like that. And there was a lot of heartbreak, a lot of pain, a lot of fights, a lot of insecurities. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, it's really taking me back. I'm just listening to thinking, is this me talking or is this someone else speaking? Really? And
Yeah.
interestingly, I never spoke about it. We didn't have these kind of dialogues those days, and I'm yet to talk about it. They actually, because you kind of just bury those things, right? And I'm glad that you are not burying them and you are actually exposing and you're actually talking about it, because these are real struggles in life. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons we wanted to bring out these coming out stories series, Gurleen, is for this reason, because I know that there are a lot of women who are confused, who are either married and confused, because I receive a lot of mails from them. I also know there are a lot of young girls who are thinking of marriage, who are either being
Yeah.
forced to marry because it is what is expected out of them, or they themselves think
Yeah.
that will cure them of this problem.
Yeah.
Once I
Yeah.
marry, then all this, these feelings that I have will vanish. So to
Yeah.
those people who are watching, please see this. This is important to understand that we have struggles, whether you are experiencing them or whether you choose not to experience them. At some point, it will come back to bite you. And yes,
Yeah.
yes, I also believe it happens with everybody. It happens with men as well. And you explained that a little earlier, that how your grandmother said that women had allowed their husbands. They knew their husbands were
Yeah.
going and meeting other gay men and having their own relationships, and that was okay. And that still happens. And I hope
Yeah.
these conversations, Gurleen, help us. I know that is what you're also doing with the various things that you're doing now, is
Yeah.
help us give people that these choices. There's real life stories. There are no role models. One of the
Yeah.
reasons that Nicola and I actually talk so much about it, and I know that's why you and Winnie do, is because we need to be
We
those
do.
role
Yeah.
models. Now, people may choose not to take that in their stride, or they may choose to walk away from it, but it is real life, and it's very painful to go through
Yeah.
this, what we've been through. So make the right
Absolutely.
choices. I don't want to give any gyan or advice, but please make the right choices for your sake, because life is not short. People say life to बहुत short. And no, life is actually very long.
Very
If it,
long. Yeah.
yeah, it's actually very long. I'm already 50 years old, and I think I've lived 50 years, of which 18 years I lived in hiding. It's not
Yeah.
worth it. Gurleen, I've been very curious to understand, what would you say to your younger self now, knowing what you are, your acceptance of you. Would you live life differently if you were given this choice?
Yeah, I think I would have. I mean, a lot of people tell me that I'm brave, but that's a front I put up. That's something that I show the world. I've not been brave. I've been scared. I've lived in fear, and I have operated from fear, for a good amount of my life. Now I'm starting to make brave choices, you know. For a really long time in my life, I didn't. I think if I had to say something to my younger self, I would say, be brave. It's okay, you know. Whatever happens, you have it in you to deal with it, and you will come through. And that's probably what I would say to myself, to kind of not operate from fear. Fear is okay, but to not operate from it, to not guide my way. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that would make sense
Absolutely.
to the younger me.
Hmm. I think we need to keep talking to ourselves quite a bit, right? And
Yeah.
if I was given a chance to live my life, I would live my truth, absolutely. But we don't live our truth, and that's our truth. Right? That's why I wrote that book, Untold Lies. There are so many
Yeah.
lies inside of us. We live in those lies not because we want to live a lie, because I mean we know the outcome of living a lie, right? It is because we are fearful of living the truth. And even in this is a absolutely honest conversation you're having with me. I can just, I know if I have speak to you another 10 minutes, we will both sit and cry. It feels like that, like the onion has peeled off and we're reaching to the
Field.
core. And I
Yeah.
don't want tears for us, because I think what we have done is something very brave and courageous. People say that to me, you're courageous, and I don't want this to be a courageous story. I want this a story to be mainstream, that no woman has to sit there and have a conversation about not understanding or not being accepted because of a sexuality, or no man should have to go through this. No one needs to go through this. No man, woman, trans, nobody needs to go through it. Is
Absolutely.
there something that you want to share with the audience, one last message before we end the session?
Um, I don't know. I think I'm really thankful, Raga, for you to ask me the kinds of questions that you asked me today. And yeah, I mean, I would say to everybody out there who is queer already and who's out there, to kind of take options and chances like these and actually tell your story, because your story is going to be somebody's truth, somebody out there. It might not be everybody's, but there will be somebody out there that it'll reach out to. And we need more stories. um, we need to listen to more stories, we need to tell more stories, and there's a lot of power in it. There's a lot of strength in that, and yeah, I mean, just keep telling stories is what I would probably say.
Thank
It's
you,
my
Gurleen.
favoriteest thing.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And you're a fantastic storyteller, I must say. You spoke from the heart, and I love your smile. I love the person that you have become. And I know I'm making personal comments, and I hope you don't mind. But to me,
No.
you're mirroring a person who has been through a journey, who has accepted their truth and lived life. Look at, this is what happens when you live life on your terms, living a truth. And that's what happens to you, and it's what happened to me. I don't give a rat's anymore, because this is our truth, right? Yeah, see, I still won't say the word, but it's been amazing. Thank you for sharing. I do this day in and day out, these conversations with people, whether it is through a corporate talk or whether through platforms like our own, and very few people touched me the way you've touched me today, Gurleen. Thank you for sharing so honestly. It was such a beautiful conversation with you. I would love to
Thank
know
you,
you
Ravi.
better. I wish you and Vinny the absolutely most beautiful love. May that love story be an example for everybody in this world. Really, thank you for joining us today. And
Thank you so much.
Nicola, thank you for your support. I know you're helping us in the background. And Nicola, as you know, has been through her own journey and she's not well. She can't see very well. And yet she's able to do this for us without any flaws. So thank you, Nicola. I hope this has helped our
Thank you,
audience.
Nicola.
Yeah, and I hope it has helped our audience. If you want to write to us, you can write to us at theviewsroom@gmail.com. Thank you for joining in. Please remember to follow us on YouTube, Raga Olga D'silva, or on my social handles at Totally Out Now. I am totally out now, and thank you again. Looking forward to our next session with Vinny Chopra. Thank you.
Yay!